Hello, welcome to the first online lesson for our Banned Book Week event. This lesson is the start of a series dedicated to sharing the turbulent and fascinating history of theater and the performing arts with all of you. In today's lesson, you will be informed of one of my personal favorite challenge plays, Lysistrata by Aristophanes. Together we will cover the history of the play, and I will model how you can use different databases to find information that might not be instantly available to you from a basic search. Libraries carry the responsibility of storing forgotten information and finding creative ways to share that information so that we all may have a better appreciation for the freedom of expression that exists in our current environment. As you may have noticed, this lesson is being delivered to you through an online timeline maker called Tiki-Talkie. I encourage you after this PowerPoint presentation to dive into the timeline and see what else is in it and what can be added. Lysistrata by Aristophanes, presented by Megan M. Morales-Correa. The goals of this lesson are the following. I want you to learn the history of the play Lysistrata. I want you to learn about different databases and websites that you can gather information from. Learn about the online timeline editor, Tiki-Talkie, hopefully so that you can use it in your future projects. Learn about how you can get involved with #BannedBooksWeek. Now, on Aristophanes. Aristophanes wrote plays from 440 to 387 BC. This is an estimated time as we're not exactly sure when he was around, but we can date the plays back to around this time frame. Aristophanes wrote several of these plays for two major Greek festivals in which there would be gigantic competitions to see whose plays were the best. The reason why we have much of Aristophanes' work is because he won a majority of those festivals. Now, Aristophanes wrote Lysistrata during the Peloponnesian War, and the play is said to have faced controversy in its own period for its stance on the war. Now, some critics believe that Aristophanes chose to make women invade and capture the Acropolis in this play because they were the lowest beats of Greek culture. Aristophanes was commenting on the foolishness of war, where foolish creatures must tell the man what to do. I bring this up when mentioning Aristophanes because it's important to know where he's coming from historically when writing this play. This play, since Aristophanes introduced it, has been studied for its feministic views and the way that it portrays women and how women are portrayed in theater in general. It's also probably a reason in why it's been banned. The play itself is a comedy. It's a comedic play that details one woman's, Lysistrata's, mission to end the Peloponnesian War. Lysistrata persuades the women of Greece to withhold sexual pleasures from their husbands and lovers as a means of forcing the men to negotiate peace. This, however, starts a battle between the sexes. The play is notable for being an early exposé of sexual relationships in a male-dominated society. It ends with the women being able to make reconciliation happen between the two nations. Now, its history with controversy. When I mentioned Aristophanes, I already mentioned that even in its own time period when it was made, it was controversial because of the stance it took on the war that was going on in Athens at the time. But since then, it's mostly been banned for its lewd content. Feminist ideals have also been utilized as a reason for the banning of this play, but this is often not tied directly to the banning of the performances. When feminist ideals are brought up in relationship to Lysistrata the play, it is often in academic writings and scholarly works. If you do a Google Scholar search, with Lysistrata and feminist ideals, you will come up with a variety of fascinating articles on how history has tried to either ban or censor this play to the masses. Now, the United States banned this play from its shores for decades. It started with the passing of the Comstock Laws of 1873. The Comstock Laws are more notably known for its effect on birth control, but it basically stated that any obscene material was banned from being shared with the public or even in private. This law did not end until 1930, leaving a 57-year gap in the history for this play in the United States. 57 years of prohibition on this play in the U.S. Now we're going to talk about searching for information. What I gave you was just the very basics, because it's more fun to look for the information yourself. But when I talk about searching for information for this play, what I'll be discussing is the plays themselves, how you can search for performances, videos, and things to back up your own work. Our first stop on our online search is through playbill.com. Now, why this choice? Well, you can definitely Google Lysistrata and check what performances you might find. But Playbill has been around for a substantial amount of time and has something called the Vault. In this, you can see that you have the accessibility to access a whole variety of plays that have been done in Broadway for many years. So if we were to type in Lysistrata, already you can see we have so many options to choose from. Starting with the most recent results, Lysistrata Jones, a modern adaptation, and then going back in history through the different shows. Shows people who have played them, searches related to this. These are a good place to start. Now let's say I wanted to pick the one from 1930. This gives me a synopsis of what exactly this one had to do, or what was on the playbill at that time, who did the music, and who was involved in the cast, and who was involved with the production credits for that opening night. This is a good way to find the history of shows and productions in Broadway or just in general. It's a really good place to start your search, because as you remember when I was explaining the history, the play Lysistrata was banned for a substantial amount of time in the United States. And if we go back, we can see that if we go to all the shows of Lysistrata, that it didn't even appear on Broadway until 1925, which was when the original ban was removed. And since that time, only 6 productions of the play have been done. Interesting to note. Now, sometimes the best way to look for inspiration in the theatrical field is to see what others have done, or what people have made as videos for your topic. Now, one of my favorite websites is Canopy. Now, usually they have documentaries on more recent current events, but we can check it out and see if it has any news on Lysistrata. The great thing about Canopy is that you can cut sections of certain videos and edit it for your own purposes later. For instance, when we go back into the Tiki-Talkie timeline, if I found something useful here that I wanted to keep, I could make a clip of it and insert it into my timeline. And that's what's really useful about it. But first, let's try typing in Lysistrata and see what comes up. I spelled Lysistrata wrong. Now, here we see that we only have one result. And that's okay, because sometimes plays like classical plays, and especially one that has been banned in the US for about 75 years, do not necessarily have an origin point. But you can see here that we have, lying in this, a video by the Phoenix Learning Group that describes the age of Greece through the internal truths dramatized in scenes from Antigone and Lysistrata. It's very important that Lysistrata is mentioned in the internal truths that we associate with this era. We can then see its importance and its usefulness. Now, as I mentioned, we don't necessarily have to just stick to Lysistrata, because we can look for things like censorship. And see where that takes us. Now, this yields a whole lot of results, but you can narrow it down by subject. We go into the arts. And this can talk about how writers speak on the censorship and things like this. And those are ways or interviews that you can bring into your arguments or presentations to back up why you do something in a play. Now, another good video database is Alexander Street's Theater and Video Volume 1. We already have Lysistrata typed in here. So if we click here, we get Women in Classical Greek Drama from Ritual to Theater, a lot about the history of the play. Now, all of these are relatively recent for videos, but they're pretty good. And they're a great source of learning about the play and about the history and about what matters. Another one is Digital Theater Plus. Now, I bring this one up, and is really great for studying about plays. Now, sometimes, especially for the classics, they have what I like to call a study guide. Let me try once more to and you can see here, plays through practice guides look at the interpretive choices and include exercise for developing, directing, designing, and acting skills, as well as full and clear background information. They also suggest, where necessary, preliminary practical work that can be undertaken before beginning work on the text. This is really useful when deciding how to go about approaching Lysistrata. You can download the full guide if you have access to this database, which is the only downside to Digital Theater Plus, is that it is a subscription-based database. But you can see here that it goes through all the different varieties of the play and its history and its social and political background. These are a couple of the websites that you can use to find information on this play. Now, throughout this presentation, I've shared a little bit of history with you. Now, what better way to share history in this time that we're in than through online platforms such as this, Tiki-Talkie, which creates interactive timelines, and it's free. I'm going to sign in now so that I can show you how its basic interface works. It's very simple, which is one of the things I love. As you can see, one of the timelines that I have is the Lysistrata one. This tells me what the first thing that people will see is, and this allows me to add different things. I'm going to take a trip back really quick and bring up the information on playbills from playbills that we had. Now let's say I wanted to add the 1972 Lysistrata to my information. Now, I know that it happened in 1972. We can open this. We see that the premiere performance was done November 13th, 1972. So if we jump back into the timeline, I can create a new story and type in 13th of November 1972, Lysistrata on Broadway. Here you can enter information. If we put in the information that's given from the website and go up a little bit and just give the basic synopsis, we can do this because each tagline is different for all the plays, what they choose to focus on. Now remember, if you do copy from a source, you always have to cite it. And they're not my words, so they go into quotations. And we can put the link to the website that we found this information on. Copy. And put it right here. And that way, we can save, and already it is now a part of our timeline. Now, I have extra levels on this timeline for when you guys begin to contribute, that say basically whether it's articles of information, more presentations, or videos, but in this case it's still articles and informations, since we don't have any videos of the play itself. Once you're done, we save, we can lift this up, and now we have right here, added onto our timeline, the history of Lysistrata on Broadway from 1972. If you can see here, I've even added a video of the most recent version of Lysistrata on Broadway, which was an adaptation musical. You can add videos and trailers that explain everything. This is a fun, interactive way of showing your information on a timeline database. Another interesting thing about Tiki-Talkie is that you can show this stuff in 3D. For instance, this is the bottom timeline. I can go backwards all the way to where I begin with my PowerPoint presentation that I'm at, that I've asked you to start with, from the historical context, and jumping all the way forward to when it happens. This is a fun way to get people involved with what we do in the performing arts. Now, I would like to not remind, but merely state that tiki-talkie line is far from being completed. We would like you to come up with some creative content that we can add to the timeline that you were just shown. Right here you can see the different things we're asking for. We're looking for performances of scenes from Lysistrata. We are looking for any kind of reviews, new or old, that you might be able to find. Any relevant posts on social media that can be submitted in the form of a meme, picture, tweet. All of these can be added to the tiki-talkie timeline. All submissions will be checked by librarians before being placed in the publicly accessible timeline for information accuracy. And all contributions help spread the word on banned books and the performing arts. Banned Books Week is about getting the word out. And what better way than to collaboratively create something new? I think it's about time that we end this 75-year gap for this play. Please send any submissions to mmoralescor@mail.usf.edu, and please take time to fill out the following survey to help us create content for future lessons.